Hey everyone, welcome back to the RetroBreak Podcast. This is episode 57 and I'm so excited today to talk about how my game release went and what my plans are for the future and a bunch of other really cool stuff for YouTube as well. So let's get started with my game. I released it 3 days ago now. I released it on Friday at 4 o'clock. It went live on itch.io along with an announcement video on my main channel. If you haven't seen the announcement video yet, please go and give it a watch because I think it is a great video on its own. Even if you're not interested in the game, it really goes into all of the behind the scenes of why it took so long. It basically took 10 years from start to finish, which is an insane amount of time for any project, but I think I did a really good job of explaining the issues with that and the struggles that I faced along the way and how I overcame them. And a lot of people really seem to have resonated with the video itself, and it's still doing very well to this day, and a lot better than usual actually. It is 2 out of 10 at the minute, which is very good for my channel, and there's a few things that that YouTube is telling me here. It's saying that views are up 40% and regular viewers are choosing to watch it. So I think a lot of people were very excited that I finally got this project out there. It is something that I mentioned in my game dev video a few months back, or about half a year ago at this point. So I think people really liked that closure where they came and actually saw the fruits of my efforts basically, and the fact that the game's actually out there right now. It's done really well so far. I've got 46 new subscribers from it already, which is just insane. So many people have left so many really nice comments as well. There's been a few assholes out there in the comments section, but for the most part, people who actually wanted to, actually write something that's not just "you suck, what the hell have you been doing for 10 years, loser" kind of thing. I've deleted some of them because they were just not good at all, and they weren't constructive or anything. They were just being idiots. So I've deleted some of them, but the comments that are there now that you can go and see are all incredibly positive, and there were some big names that really came across to congratulate me on the release as well, which is always really nice to see that there's so many people out there, from other YouTubers to game devs to game dev creators to just general people who watch the channel and who are happy for me. And more than that, I'm actually really shocked at the amount of people that actually went on to play the game. So I was expecting most people just to watch a video and say congratulations and then move on, but it does actually seem like a lot of them actually went over to itch.io and actually enjoyed the game for themselves. So I've got the stats here on the itch.io page as well, and I'm just absolutely blown away by the response on here. It's even got some reviews on itch, and they are amazing. I've got some 5-star reviews. There's one here from Robiot, which I was so happy to read. He says, "Such a fun game. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the lack of a jump button at first, but the physics-based controls are actually ingenious and make the game feel so much more unique to play. The game design is excellent throughout, with a bunch of different tricks to pull off, which stops the game from ever feeling stale. None of the levels outstay their welcome either, which I loved. It's not just copy and paste of the same level over and over again. Each level feels fresh and fun to play. The game is also charming too, from the art style to the humorous dialogue and the catchy music. 5 out of 5 from me. Highly recommend it for anyone looking for a fun little browser game." That's amazing, and there's been so many amazing comments and reviews and people sending me DMs and texts and emails just telling me how good the game is, or more interestingly, telling me that they're surprised the game is as good as it is, which I think is a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment. But yeah, just absolutely blown away by the response on itch and on YouTube and everywhere else. And I've even had people messaging me who I haven't spoken to in years, saying that they actually remembered the game from when I first made it, and they're so happy for me. So it's just been an overwhelming reception already, and it's only been 3 days. I can see here that the game's been played 1,448 times, which is way above any estimations that I had for the success of the game at this point. I've actually made £22 in revenue from the game on itch, just from generous people who thought it would be nice to support me, and I was not expecting that whatsoever. I released the game completely for free. I was not expecting to see a single penny in terms of compensation for my time or efforts. So to know that there's some people out there that actually want to support me financially, and they didn't say anything, they just supported me and went on with their day, and that is just incredible. There's so many kind strangers out there in the world. You just I just appreciate every single person who's interacted with me over the past few days. It did make me quite emotional at points, and I haven't cried just yet, but I was close. I'm just absolutely blown away. I'm looking at some more stats on here. 33 people on itch have added it to their personal collections to play in the future. There's a bunch of wish lists that it's been added to. There's a bunch of recommendation lists that people have added it to. Some people have written comments on there saying that the game looks really fun and that you should check it out. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. This is not the response that I expected, and I am so glad that I put in all of the extra effort to make the game as good as it could be, because I do think that if I'd have released this game last year when I literally just ported the iOS game over, I don't think it would have done as well as it did. So I'm really glad that I actually put in the time to polish it up and make it a game that I'm truly proud of. And people in the video actually really respected me for that as well, not rushing it out the door and giving that extra bit of time and polish. And there's been 22 comments on the page so far, and everyone has been so positive. It's just absolutely amazing, honestly, and just thank you so much. There is a few things that I would like to point out that have left me a little bit frustrated or confused, because I really didn't see this coming, but from people's point of view, it makes perfect sense. There's been so many requests to port it to various different consoles, to various different operating systems, to allow a downloaded exe or a app for the Mac and things like that, and people have been asking for Linux builds of the game. Some people have asked me to put it back on iOS and Android. I've had literally like 10 different people in the first day asking me to port the game to the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color, and I don't think people realise how much of an ask that is and how much time that would take, and also the fact that it is just almost impossible with the way the game engine works. So I was using the free version of Stencil, and the only option you have to export from the free version is HTML5, and that's why I exported it just as a HTML5 game rather than an actual PC game in and of itself. So I released it as HTML5, and I thought that's fine. Everyone's got access to a computer, everyone can play it on the web browser, but apparently no, people want it in like 10, 15 different formats to suit their various needs. So I have actually decided that come payday, which is actually the day that you're hearing this, because I think I'm going to release this podcast on Tuesday. I know I usually release them on Mondays, but I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about this. So what I'm going to do tomorrow, or in a few hours' time if you're listening to this, is buy the Stencil license. It's £200, so it is quite a lot of money, so I hope it is worth this, and especially releasing the game for free. I'm not expecting to make this money back, so I do have to be a little bit cautious about this, but I'm going to do it anyway just because I think it will help get the game out there to more people. So I'm going to buy the Stencil license. I'm going to make at least 3 more different export options. I'm going to release it on Windows, Mac, and Linux as well. And Linux is the really interesting one because there's been a bunch of different people now that have asked me to supply them with Linux builds, because then they can actually port it to various different handheld consoles, or it opens up possibilities to port it to consoles in the future, or to put it on things like the Evercade by Blaze. So if I get that Linux version, I'm actually wondering whether I'll be able to then send it out to a bunch of different publishers and companies and get it put onto game collections or get it pre-installed on consoles and things. And I think that would be really exciting, especially with the fact that I'm aiming at least as long as possible to make the game completely free of charge. So I'm basically just going to give the game to anyone who wants it and tell them feel free to do whatever they like, because I'm not getting any personal gain from more people playing it apart from the fact that more people get to enjoy it. And at the end of the day, I think I'm in a really lucky position that I'm not expecting to make any money from this, and I'm not really bothered whether it does or not. I'm not having to rely on it for an income or to make a living or anything. And I think that really takes a lot of pressure off me, and it allows me to do a lot more things with the game than perhaps some other people might feel comfortable about as well. And I also had a really interesting email on the day that the game went live as well by a charity called Games for Love, and they basically asked me would I like to give them the game to host on their charity platform. And basically they're building a website that kids in hospitals can then use to play child-friendly games. And I just think that's an amazing opportunity to be able to perhaps improve a kid's life while they're going through like some surgery in hospital or something, or if they just need something to take their mind off things, to give them the opportunity to play a nice fun game that's not too challenging. I really genuinely think that this could be an amazing opportunity and really help to improve people's lives as well, which is something that I never even considered a possibility, and that would just be absolutely amazing. And there's other opportunities as well. There's been some people saying that they plan on streaming the game, so that will definitely get the game out there in front of more people too. Some people have asked as well whether the game's going to be on Steam, and with the Mac and Windows builds of the game, that is a possibility as well. Obviously, there are more costs involved with that too, and if I was to do that, I would also like to make it a little bit better for the Steam release. Maybe I'd do things like including Steam achievements, or trying to work out how to get controller support, because at the minute it only works on the keyboard. There's a whole bunch of things that potentially I could do in the future. It just depends whether I'm willing to put in the time and the effort to figure them out, really, because I was kind of hoping that the game hadn't been as popular as it ended up being, and I could just release it into the world and then once again just forget that it exists and move on to something else and start building my next game. But the way it's going at the minute, it sounds like I might be focusing on this game for a little bit longer at least, to make some of these other versions possible. In terms of Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color ports, I really don't see that happening. That would basically be recreating the game from scratch again. And in terms of iOS and Android, that might be a little bit easier. It would include me remaking the controls again, basically undoing all of the changes that I did to get this PC version up and running. But it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, although there are, of course, then more costs involved with the licenses to put the game back onto the different app stores, and then renewing those licenses every year to keep the games on the store as well. So that's, again, something I might have to consider or reconsider in the future. Haven't quite decided yet. Maybe that's something for like a year down the line or something. But yeah, in terms of the next steps for the game, definitely getting the 3 exports for the main operating systems out there. Of course, they'll still be free. The game's always going to be free as long as I've got a say in that. I don't really feel like charging anyone for the game. And potentially I won't charge anyone for any games going forward as well, because YouTube is what I'm hoping to make money from, not the games. They're just a fun side hobby to stop me going crazy from just making videos all the time. So yeah, that's my immediate plan. My next plan after that might be to make the Steam version, if people still want it. Depends whether people keep playing it and whether I get some more people asking or not. But yeah, just really happy to get the game out there. I'm so glad that it's been really well received by the majority of people that have played it. And yeah, if you haven't played it already, check out my itch.io page. It's retrobreak.itch.io/superdonuts, or just go to retrobreak.co.uk and you can find a link to the game on the website right there. Now, that's it for the game. I do have plans for another game that I've kind of very, very slightly started working on in Godot, but it is extremely early days. And I think I mentioned a bit about it in some of my previous podcast episodes when I was talking about my different projects, but I'm not going to mention anything more about it for a while, because I don't know if that is the next thing that I really want to focus on, because I have also been wanting to make music as well, and I know that's something that I've mentioned a few times in the past. And since I released the game, I actually did start playing around with music again over the weekend. So it sounds absolutely awful, and feel free to laugh, but here's the first track that I've ended up making after doing a little bit of research. There were just other things before this, which were just completely random noise. But yeah, I'll end the podcast here, and I'll leave this song to play you out, and then hopefully by the next time I do an episode, there might be a little bit of a better song. So anyway, thanks so much for listening. Go and play the game, and I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye.